Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, today we're going to do a little bit of a tutorial here, and what we're going to do is show you how to run mail merge to print address labels out of your contact list. Now, we are going to be using Evolution. You should also be able to do this with Thunderbird. You can do this with a CSV, which you can export. I don't think you can specifically do a VCF file. And so what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and do this on a virtual machine so that there's extra software I didn't want to have to install on my main system. Don't worry, my virtual machine is a fairly beefy device, so we won't have any issues. Now, there's going to be some software packages you're going to need to install. Again, we're going to do this with Evolution specifically. And so with Evolution, we're going to need the extra plugin pack that allows Evolution to talk with your LibreOffice. So let's start by going on over to our desktop. And what I end up doing is I downloaded this CSV file, which is simply sample contact information. So this is just something I grabbed from the internet, and you might have a similar type of spreadsheet. Now, quite literally, this is infinitely easier to do if you are just working with the CSV. So if you are a business or whatever and you're keeping your addresses in a CSV file, hey, very easy. I think Thunderbird has the ability to export your contact list as a CSV. I think that's what this one is. It was actually a complicated task to get the CSV list into Evolution. So it was not as simple as just point things in. So this is actually what Thunderbird exported. So I was not actually able to get the import to function in any way, shape, or form directly from a CSV into Evolution. Now, the reason we're doing Evolution is this is what a friend of mine's who asked me about this is what they use. This is actually the preferred email client that I use. I personally don't use contacts on this. I do contacts in a different form. But anyway, this is a nice application. So I was able to get this, and I can talk about later. We can talk maybe about how to get those in. I'm not going to do that on this stream. But we're going to go ahead and start out, and I'm just going to show you the Evolution. So of course, Evolution is a email application that is pretty much every bit as robust as Outlook. So if you are thinking of switching to Linux from a Microsoft world and you're using Outlook, then Evolution is absolutely my favorite. Now, I don't have an email set up here, so I'm not sure what's going to happen when I go to mail. It's just going to ask for this. You have the unified inbox. Now, this is, I say Outlook, I say older Outlook. I think the newer ones has followed this same thread, which is putting every email in its own little folder, and I absolutely hate that because my businesses have so many emails. So I use Evolution because I have a unified inbox, and then I can sort things with a series of rules later. I'm not going to cover in this tutorial how to manage any of that. But here we have our contact list, and our contacts here, they are containing a name. Now, something that this does differently than many other systems is that there is no first name and last name. There's just a full name link, which is okay. You just have to be aware of that. We have our address. We have our address line here. We have our city, our zip code, and our state. So that's what we have. So before we jump into this, what do you need to install? Well, we're going to go here into the software manager, and I'm using Linux Mint 19.1. This is the beta right now, but it'll work pretty much anywhere. So if you do your software manager, whatever system you're using, then you will have a variety of tools. The specific one we need to make sure is enabled is LibreOffice-Evolution. This is going to allow you to link your Evolution contact list and address books into LibreOffice. Now, the other thing that you are going to need is you are going to need the full LibreOffice suite. So some distributions will only throw on the basic ones that are being used, such as the Writer and maybe the Calc, maybe the Impress, maybe the Draw. Many of them are going to leave out your Math and your Base. Make sure that you definitely have your Base, and make sure your Base core is installed. And really, I don't actually have the Meta package, which is literally everything LibreOffice installed here, but they did give me actually everything else I needed except for the LibreOffice and Evolution Connect plugin. So just make sure those are installed. Basically, you're going to need to make sure you have Writer and Base at the bare minimum, and make sure you have that the evolution and LibreOffice thing that we had pointed out a few minutes ago. So with those done, what we are going to do is we're going to go ahead and just boot up LibreOffice. We can just boot up the basic LibreOffice program, which gives us this screen here. So the first thing we are going to do is we're going to create a database. Don't worry, you don't have to actually dive in, just use the wizard. Under your file menu up here, then you want to come on down to your wizards and hit your address data source. Okay, so now you're going to have this. If you do not see evolution in this list, it means that that evolution plugin is not installed. So you can see we can do evolution. I can do Thunderbird here. I can do other external data source, which will allow us to go directly from that CSV. We're going to go ahead and do evolution. So click next on evolution and then hit the field assignment button. Now, remember how I said that evolution does not have first name and last name. It just has first name. So what these are here, these are the fields that are going to show up in the database. So when it says first name here, we're going to come down here and we are going to go with full name. We are going to ignore last name because full name contains first name and then last name with a space separated, so it will work perfectly. I'm going to leave out company for simplicity. You can do that. This, of course, should be a primer. For street, this is your effective address. So this would show up on your address, which in in evolution, address combines both address line 1 and address line 2, which is not the most ideal, but we'll go ahead and do address line 1. For city, of course, just grab our city. So here is city, our zip code. Grabs our zip code, and then we need our state, grabs our state. So since these are mailing labels we are printing, we don't need to worry about anything else like phone numbers, anything else like that. So our first name is going to have our entire full name. Our street has our entire address, which is address line 1 and address line 2 as applicable. We have our city, we have our zip code, we have our state. If there's something else that you need, maybe country codes, whatever else, that's okay. Push OK, and then this is going to create a database. And what basically this is going to create a database here, and this is going to be addresses 1. You want to give it a database name. So we're just going to call this address 1. Of course, addresses is what you might see if you're doing this the first time. I ran through this as a test. So now that it's created a database, doesn't look like anything happened. This is a step you do not have to do, but just so you understand what's going on, if you go into your database application and hit Open Existing, hit your Open button, this is going to take you to your My Documents. This is the database file that was just created, the ODB file. So if you open this up, then under Tables and Forms, this is actually that information. So this is everything here. All right. Now, this is a live and active database. So if you were to update your evolution contact list, that is going to automatically appear in this database. That's important because the steps we just did, you only have to do the first time. You simply have to make sure that your database file is preserved, and you need to make sure that your contact file list is preserved. In other words, make sure you're doing good backups of both your evolution contact data and your database files. And if you ever need to reinstall your computer, make sure everything is properly linked back the appropriate way. So that is the database function. And I just closed LibreOffice. Let's just go ahead and reopen that up. So the next step is we're going to create our mailing labels. Now, again, we're going to assume that we are going to use a mailing label that is already in the database, which is actually a pretty good bet because there are a lot. We're going to hit File, New. Nope, I got to hit the New button, not the Tool button, and come down to Labels. So with labels, now what we're going to do, this was kind of my sample one, so I'm just going to delete everything here so we can kind of start with a blank slate. It will kind of save your last data, so if you only do this on one system, hey, great, you don't have to really save anything else. All right, so here what we are going to do is inside of the label, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select what database it's coming from. So evolution, local, addresses. So in theory, this should work. I've not seen how to do it. Again, I put together most of this from late last night. I haven't explored this. But we just created a database called addresses1. So we're going to do that. And then this is going to list a list of tables. Personal is that address table that we had. And then now we're going to create our labels. So over here, we are actually going to basically create whatever's in the label. So we're going to start with, now remember here that we are using, I think we're using the full name for the database field. Move that over and then hit enter. And then we're going to come down here and we are going to find our address line. So address line 1, hit your over arrow. This puts it here. Now we are basically building a line. So this is your address lines. Hit enter again. Now we're going to pull in our city. Enter that. Now we want, for formatting in the United States, city, comma, space, state, and then the zip code. So we're going to enter a comma, enter a space on the keyboard. Now we're going to hit state, push this over, and then hit a space, and then now we're going to push over zip. Boom. Now we're done. Now this will all be one line. It's just we don't have any more space over here. Now the next thing you need to do is determine what labels you're using. So here is a series of different labels. Now not every label is exactly listed by the exact number. There's a lot of things. You can get generic ones that says, you know, Avery label 6925, whatever. So you just want to flip through here and find, first look for the label. What you're going to find is that because this is a giant international database, you're going to find that you might be using some address label that uses a different number, but as long as your numbers are working right, as long as everything is set up right, this is going to tell you, does your label on your package say you have 2.52 inch by 1.5 inch, that's 3 by 10? Oh, no? Well, let's look for another one then. This is 3 by 8. This is 2 by 8. So you can see that you're just kind of looking for just what labels you might have. Now I have a separate video about, suppose you can't find any of the labels that you're doing, you can actually create your own. We're not going to walk through exactly how to do that on this video here, but I'll go ahead and link that. So this is 3 by 15, so that's 45 labels. I just kind of do this until I find what I'm looking for. What are the ones I have laying around? I think I have 3 by something's laying around. I think I might have 3 by 15s laying around. I think I might have something like this laying around. So okay, so now with this, the next thing we're going to do, don't hit create new document yet. We're going to go over to options. Make sure that synchronized content is set up, all right? And then make sure entire page is set up. This form is what's used if you need to create your own labels. This should automatically be set, but if you need to tweak the label, you can go ahead and pick one close to what you have and just tweak it over here. Again, I cover this in fine detail on another video, which I will link to this one here. All right, so now with this, we're going to hit the new document button. And what this is going to do is open up LibreWriter. And what you're going to have is you're going to have this little synchronize button up here. This is because we've selected that synchronized form. Because as this comes in here, it's probably not going to be exactly what we want. So now let's say I want to make the first name stick out a little bit more. Oop, I got to not double click it though. So here we're just going to highlight the first name. Maybe we'll go ahead and change the font. It's already kind of bold. Let's go ahead and highlight the rest of this. Let's drop the font size down a little bit. Let's maybe center the whole label. Hit the synchronize button, and now all of your labels are going to look the same. Okay, so now it's basically pulling information out of the database. I'm not 100% sure that full name is right, but we'll go ahead and give it a try. So from here, we're going to print the document. So I'm just going to grab the print from the menu. You can easily grab the print from the toolbar. This is going to ask you, your document contains database fields. Do you want to print a form letter? Push yes. And now what this is going to do is it's going to give us our information. So full name, so yes, full name will work correctly. So now in my case, I don't have a printer set up on this VirtualBox. We're just going to print to a file. Make sure that save single document is done when you're doing labels. Now, if you were going to do printing out a form letter or something, then you might want to save them as separate documents. It just kind of depends on your system. The difference here is that the single document is going to make one document with all the data. Individual documents is every single line in your database is going to create a separate document. Okay, so we're going to save a single document. I'm going to save it as a file. And then you can pick your file format down here. So you can save this as a writer document. If you want to print one out as a writer document first, so for testing purposes, you can do that. I'm just going to go ahead and test this as a PDF, and we'll put this on the desktop, and we will call it test. So hit save, and you're going to see it's going to run through its whole address label-y thing. And then that's going to give us a file on the desktop when that is done. So let's go to the desktop. Here is test.pdf. And you can see here that it went ahead and printed all of our address labels directly out of our contact list on Evolution. Now, like I said, if you make adjustments, so all you have to do is most of that stuff, we just have to set it up one time. So let's go ahead and open up Evolution. And we will go ahead and add a new contact. So on this, you can either hit the new here, or you can actually double click anywhere in here. We're going to say John. Let's do something. We're going to do Alibaba because I simply want it to be up near the front of the top of the list, so we can find it. So there's our full name, our address book. He's at 123 Elm Street. Whoa, let's enter Elm Street right though. City, let's do any town. Postal code 12345. State, we'll just do PA. Hit save. Now that will show up right there in my contact list. I want to double check, make sure I have my system set up right here, because you'll notice that showed up a little bit different, but it should still work just fine. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so we've added a new contact to Evolution. Okay, time to do our print labels again. Now all I should need to do is come right into our LibreOffice again. Let's close this document out. Don't save that document. So from here, just come right on back up. Hit New, Labels. As long as nothing here changed, just create new document. And we're just going to go ahead and print these ones out as they are. Yes. Single file. Once again, we're going to save it as this. Yes, replace. So you can see that if you were paying attention, you'll see it's now printing 502 records instead of 501. And as we open up our test.pdf, there is our contact. So now that we have this set up, as long as you're not changing anything else in the address fields or whatever else, then you can do that. Now, the other thing, by the way, you can do is you can actually take this document right here that we have. Let's go ahead and do those changes that we had before. Make it exactly what we want. Let's center the whole thing. Let's go ahead and make this a font size smaller. So now we can actually save this document, and this document is going to contain within it the database thing. So let's just go ahead and do addresses over here as in our documents folder. Close that out. So let's verify that's in there. So open our documents. So here's our documents thing. So now in theory, if I'm correct, all we should need to do now, let's go ahead and add another contact. So again, you can just double click in any empty space between a contact. We'll say Allison Alley. Mailing address 789 Any Street. And Springfield. And 12345 PA. Hit save. Now, if I'm correct, now that the contact is in there, if all we should be able to do is go right back to our saved file, the ODT file, which is the writer file, contains links. Would you like to change it? Yes. Print. Yes. Let's go back to desktop. We will once again overwrite our PDF. So now you'll see it's printing 503. So in theory, just set this up with your writer document up once. Everything should be fine. Sure, let's just go ahead and save that. Now if I print up my test PDF, Allison Ali is now up there. Alibaba is up there. So all I'm doing is just adding to the address list, reopen up the same document we've been using, reprint your your forms out. So that is how you can create a mail merge from your Evolution address list into a printing out your labels directly. And again, that the option to create those labels did indeed have the information for a continuous print feed as well. If you have a continuous printer, you have that option as well. So hopefully that helped. If we need to dive into anything else in finer detail, of course, you can do it with the CSV file as well. And as long as you just keep on adding to the same CSV file, it will keep on updating that database automatically. So the Evolution is working with a database. Everything is working with a database. And hey, we don't even need to go online and download Avery document templates. So let me know if this tutorial was helpful and if you'd like to see more things like this. So thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. I hope you've enjoyed this video from Switched to Linux. If you'd like to help support the channel, check out the links at the top. There is another video over here. You can check out our Patreon page down here. And you can check out shop.switchedtolinux.com for information on a t-shirt like this or some other designs. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.